are a gold digger.
I didn't expect that night to change anything. It was just a birthday celebration. My mother-in-law's 60th. A room full of people. A night that was supposed to be simple. But sometimes, it's not the quiet moments that change your life. It's the ones where everything falls apart in front of everyone. There are some things you say in private, and there are some things you never say at all. But that night, she said it anyway, in front of 1,000 guests. And in that moment, something shifted. Not just in the room, but in me. Because what she didn't realize was that she had just made a mistake she couldn't take back. My name is Naomi Carter, and this is the night everything changed. I almost didn't go. Even as I stood in front of my mirror that evening, smoothing the front of my soft gold dress, something in my chest felt unsettled. Not fear, not even anxiety, just a quiet voice whispering, "You don't belong there." I stared at my reflection for a long moment. My name is Naomi Carter. I've walked into boardrooms filled with executives twice my age. I've closed deals worth millions. I've made decisions that changed lives. But this felt harder, because tonight wasn't about power, it was about perception. And in that world, I had never quite fit. "Naomi, we can still skip it." I turned slightly at the sound of my husband's voice. Darius stood behind me, adjusting his cufflinks. His expression was softer than usual. Concerned. "I mean it," he said. "She'll get over it." I gave a small smile. "It's her 60th birthday. Missing it would only make things worse." He exhaled quietly. "You don't have to prove anything to her." That made me pause, because the truth was, I had never been trying to prove anything to his mother. She had already decided who I was. Her name is Evelyn Brooks, and from the moment she met me, she didn't like me. The first time I stepped into her home, she greeted me with a smile that looked perfect, but felt rehearsed. "You're interesting," she said. Her eyes moved over me just a second too long. I smiled politely. "I hope that's a good thing." She tilted her head slightly. "I suppose time will tell." That was Evelyn. She never insulted you directly. She planted seeds and let silence do the rest. Over the years, those seeds became patterns, comments that sounded harmless to everyone else, but never to me. Darius has always had a generous heart. I just hope people around him appreciate that properly. He's worked very hard for everything he has. And my personal favorite, I raised my son to be a provider. Some people find that convenient. At first, I questioned myself. Maybe I was being too sensitive. Maybe I was imagining things. But then I noticed something else. The way conversations shifted when I walked into a room. The way her friends smiled at me, then exchanged looks. The way I was always introduced as, "This is Darius's wife." Never Naomi, never anything I had built. Darius never fully saw it. Or maybe he didn't want to. "She just needs time," he would say. "She's old-fashioned." But it had been 3 years. 3 years of polite distance. 3 years of being tolerated, but never accepted. And tonight, I was walking straight into her world. The venue was exactly what I expected. A grand ballroom in Chicago, overlooking the lake. Soft golden lighting, crystal chandeliers, conversations wrapped in expensive laughter. This wasn't just a birthday party. It was a statement. And from the moment we stepped inside, I felt it. That shift, that quiet ripple of attention. People noticed Darius first. Then they noticed me. Eyes lingered, whispers followed. Not loud enough to hear, but loud enough to understand. Darius reached for my hand. "I've got you," he said softly. I nodded, but my grip stayed loose, because there was something he didn't know, something I had chosen not to tell him. Not yet. Darius! The voice carried across the room with ease. Evelyn. She stood at the center of it all, surrounded by guests, glowing under attention. Dressed in a deep emerald gown, diamonds resting perfectly at her neck, she looked exactly how she wanted the world to see her. Refined, powerful, untouchable. Her eyes landed on Darius first, warm, proud. Then they shifted to me. And just like that, the warmth disappeared.
She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "You made it," she said. Darius hugged her. "Of course, we wouldn't miss this." She laughed lightly, then turned to me. There was a pause. Small, but deliberate. "Well," she said slowly, her gaze sweeping over me, "this is a look." I held her eyes. "Thank you." Her lips curved slightly, but it wasn't kindness. It was judgment. The night moved on. Music, laughter, champagne flowing endlessly. But beneath it all, I could feel something building. I noticed familiar faces across the room, people who recognized me, people who knew exactly who I was. But they didn't approach. They only watched, waiting. And I understood why. This wasn't the moment. Not yet. Then the announcement came. "Ladies and gentlemen, may we have your attention?" The room quieted. "And now we invite Miss Evelyn Brooks to say a few words." Applause filled the space as she stepped onto the stage, confident, graceful, completely in control. She took the microphone with ease, and for a moment, everything felt normal. She spoke about gratitude, about family, about raising Darius. The room responded with laughter and admiration. I almost believed maybe tonight would pass quietly. Then her tone changed, subtle, but unmistakable. "And of course," she continued, "family is not just about blood." Her eyes moved slowly across the room, then stopped, on me. "It's also about the people we allow into our lives." The air shifted. "And sometimes," she added, her smile tightening, "those choices aren't always made for the right reasons." Silence settled, heavy, intentional. "I've always taught my son the value of hard work," she continued, "that nothing in life should be taken or expected without earning it." A few people nodded. "And so," she said, lifting her glass slightly, "it concerns me when I see individuals who believe they can build a life," she paused, "just long enough, by attaching themselves to someone else's success." A ripple moved through the crowd, soft whispers, uncomfortable glances. "And to those people," she said, her gaze fixed on me, "I hope you find the dignity to earn your place." Another pause, longer this time, instead of taking one that was never truly yours. Silence. Then, a few quiet laughs. A murmur. A shift in the room. And just like that, it was no longer subtle. It was public, deliberate, humiliating. 1,000 eyes turned toward me, waiting, watching, judging. Darius leaned closer. "Naomi, I'm so sorry." But I didn't respond. I didn't look at him. I didn't look at anyone. I kept my eyes on Evelyn, because for the first time, I wasn't shrinking. I wasn't uncomfortable. I wasn't unsure. I was calm, completely calm. Because what she didn't know, what she had no idea she had just done, was step into a moment she could not control. And in that moment, I made a decision. I wasn't leaving. I wasn't staying silent. And I wasn't going to let this end the way she expected. Because if she wanted to define me in front of 1,000 people, then she was about to learn exactly who Naomi Carter really was. Before we continue, if you're enjoying this story,
don't forget to subscribe to Triumph Legends. We share powerful, real-life stories that inspire, teach, and sometimes leave you speechless. Hit that subscribe button now so you never miss the next story that could change your perspective. I should have walked out. That would have been the easy thing to do. Quiet, dignified, safe. But I didn't move. I stood there, in the middle of that room with 1,000 eyes on me, and I listened. Evelyn lowered her glass slowly, as if she had just said something wise, something respectable, the kind of statement people nod at without questioning. And for a moment, that's exactly what happened. A few guests smiled. Some even clapped lightly. Because to them, she hadn't said anything wrong. She had been subtle, careful, polished. But then she continued, and that was her mistake. "I believe in honesty," Evelyn said, her voice smooth, controlled. "And sometimes honesty requires us to say the things others are too polite to say." The room quieted again. This time, the silence felt different, sharper, more expectant. Darius shifted beside me. "Mom," he said under his breath, warning in his tone. But she didn't look at him. Her eyes stayed on me, locked, focused, intentional. "And while I have tried," she continued, "to remain respectful, to remain open," she paused, just long enough to make sure everyone was listening. "I can no longer pretend." A few heads turned, whispers faded. The room leaned in. "My son," she said, her voice rising just slightly, "is a hard-working man, a successful man." She gestured toward Darius. "A man who has built something meaningful with his life." He stiffened beside me. "And it concerns me," she added, "when I see someone come into that life and benefit from it." Another pause. Longer this time. More deliberate. "Without bringing anything of their own." I felt Darius turn toward me, felt the tension in his body. But I didn't move. I didn't react. I just watched her, because now I knew exactly where she was going. "And let's be honest," Evelyn said, her voice cutting clean through the room now. "If we're going to speak truth tonight," she lifted her chin slightly, proud, certain, unapologetic. "My son didn't marry for love." The words landed hard. A ripple moved through the crowd. Darius stepped forward. "That's enough." But she raised her hand, stopping him, silencing him. "He married," she continued, her eyes never leaving mine, "a gold digger." The room froze completely. No laughter, no whispers, just silence. Heavy, uncomfortable, real. For a moment, no one moved, no one spoke, because even for a room filled with people who thrived on quiet judgment, that was too direct, too exposed. Darius turned fully toward her now. "Mom, what are you doing?" His voice was low, tight with disbelief. But she didn't look at him. She was still looking at me, waiting, watching, expecting something, a reaction, a breakdown, a scene. But she didn't get one, because something inside me had already shifted. The moment she crossed that line, everything became clear. I took a slow breath, not to calm myself, but to steady the moment. Around me, I could feel it, the tension, the discomfort, the curiosity. People were no longer just watching her. They were watching me, waiting to see what I would do. Darius stepped closer. "Naomi, I'm so sorry," he whispered. This isn't right." I turned my head slightly, just enough to look at him, and for the first time that night, I smiled. Not a polite smile, not a forced one, a calm one. "It's okay," I said quietly, and I meant it, because the truth was, this moment, this exact moment,
was the one I had been waiting for. Evelyn tilted her head slightly, studying me, confused, uncertain, because I wasn't reacting the way she expected, and that made her uncomfortable. "You have nothing to say?" she asked finally. Her voice still carried confidence, but there was something else there now, something small, something new. Doubt. I stepped forward, just one step, but it was enough to shift the energy in the room. "I do," I said calmly. My voice didn't shake, didn't rise, didn't break. It carried, clear and steady. The room stilled again. I looked at her, really looked at her. Not as my husband's mother, not as the woman who had spent years trying to diminish me, but as someone who had just made a very public mistake. "You're right about one thing," I said. Her expression flickered, just slightly. She hadn't expected agreement. "Darius is a hard-working man," I continued. "A good man." I paused, let the room breathe. "But what you don't understand," I said softly, "is that you've been looking at me the wrong way from the very beginning." A murmur moved through the crowd, subtle, curious. Evelyn's posture straightened, her confidence returning. "Oh?" she said lightly. "Then enlighten us." There it was, that tone, that invitation, that assumption that she was still in control. I nodded slowly. "I will," I said, and for the first time that night, I turned. Not toward her, not toward Darius, but toward the room, toward the people who had been watching, waiting, judging, because they weren't strangers to me. Not really. Some of them already knew. They just didn't expect to find out like this. I let my gaze move across the room, meeting a few familiar eyes, holding them, just long enough. Then I looked back at Evelyn and smiled. "Since we're being honest tonight," I said, "it's only fair that everyone here understands exactly who I am." The room leaned in, and just like that, the moment shifted, because this was no longer her stage, it was mine. In that moment, standing in front of 1,000 people, I realized something. This was never about proving myself. It was about letting the truth speak, at the right time, in the right way. She thought she had exposed me, but she had only opened the door, because what I was about to say next would change everything. Not just for her, not just for me, but for everyone in that room. If you think this ends here, it doesn't. Because the truth, it's a lot bigger than one word. Part 2 is where everything comes to light. And here on Triumph Legends, we don't just tell stories of pain. We tell stories of power, truth, and the moment everything turns around. Stay with me. You won't want to miss what happens next.